world of work, one of the things that Oakwood has done is been able to navigate over the years the idea of having to initially have our consultants on site with the client. And in the end, clients have become more confident in our ability to do work remotely through both the technology side of it and the ability to find that work in a fashion that allows them to keep abreast of our progress. But two, now that we've entered this notion that we can't get together due to the pandemic, it hasn't been as much of a pivot for Oakwood as it has been for other companies. But what we've tried to continue to do is just foster that notion of collaboration. We have a set of values. Work hard, play hard is in a sense one of them. Community, teamwork, supporting one another, that try to touch on the very nature of what it's like to work with people, yet being in a situation where we're working for clients, whether we're physically on site with them or we're working from our offices remotely or we're working from our homes. We tried to make sure that the feeling of connectedness isn't lost. You're not an island out there and somebody's going to call you when they need you and they're not going to call you until then. So we tried to adapt a little bit to allow our clients to recognize our ability to be there even if we're not physically there. You know, it's an interesting question. I think that over the years, the client-consultant relationship, probably over the 20 or 30 years that I've been in the business, has evolved from what I characterize as very strategic, oftentimes more educational, to one where it became almost a utility and a commodity, and IT was treated as a procurement category, and vendors were put into buckets, and you give me this person at this rate and that will be it. And the staffing industry has fostered a little bit of that. So there's a dichotomy between the staffing industry and the consulting business and industry. To now, I think that IT leadership is confident in their own role and importance within the organization, but more importantly, they're also confident in that they can bring on a company like an Oakwood, and we're not IBM, we're not Accenture, we're not some of these companies whose names are household words that are recognized around the world. And in the end, they bring us in and feel quite confident that we can deliver and support their vision as a partner, as an extension of their business. And I've said this before, there's more of a working alongside as opposed to working behind or in front of one another. That seems to be the relationship that many companies are trying to foster with service providers like in Oakwood. What we've entered into with really, I think, two changes is that one is this opportunity for computing to become almost a utility, cloud computing. And that's a term that's being applied now to the public clouds that are well known, such as Azure or AWS, being probably the two biggest, but Google and others have public cloud offerings. And what they really have done is they've taken this notion of servers and databases and infrastructure being in somebody's control in a closet to just plug, in a sense, a cable into the wall, and you can get all the computing, storage, and cycles you need. So what they've done is they've layered on a tremendous series of services onto this infrastructure. And in doing so, they've allowed applications to be developed in a manner that do two things. One, they can be more dynamic and scalable and responsive and available more easily due to the availability of the bandwidth and the availability of the application through a variety of means, mobile, computers, etc. And two, not getting into the technical weeds, but they have developed technologies that allow those to run without the same cost and resource consumption as an application that is not engineered for the cloud. And that may be a little tough to think about, but if you think of it in terms of a computer or a server, it takes CPU time and storage time and power, etc. And what the cloud is delivering to you is a level of just a commoditization of that. It's a metering by which you might be able to measure how much of each of those you're using. And if the application uses fewer of them, then your cost will be less, and you'll reduce your compute time, or you reduce your storage time. So those are some of the things that differentiate when somebody says, I need to modernize an application. It's more than just a change in language. It's a change in the way the application might function, and it's a change in the way the application might deliver whatever it is it's delivering, the service that it's delivering. And it can do so in a better, a more responsive, less resource-intensive fashion. Again, it's part of this shift, I think, of IT. So the pandemic has just simply accelerated it with people working remotely, people not being able to get together in person and solve problems. And so it's taken work and broken it down into smaller chunks, if you think about the nature of how many individuals might work in terms of walking around the office to accomplish something. And in the end, what's occurred is that IT has become so devilishly complicated. And when I say that, I saw an interesting article a while back that noted the proliferation of the number of applications that a business uses as it grows. And if you think about it, we used to only have a handful of applications in the business. We'd have maybe our accounting and financial system, and you have some system of record that keeps track of what you're producing, and you've got some office applications and maybe some HR and etc. But now the average business might have, at a minimum, several hundred apps. Right? A substantial mid-market business might have several thousand. And these can be apps that run on your phones, or these can be apps that run on servers, or they can be apps that run on your desktop. And so what's happened is that companies have said they cannot staff to support the volume of applications and the diversity of technologies and needs that they have, and they've got to find a company that can come in and do that for them, right? You used to hire one person to administer this app, and in the end, with all those applications, you can't afford to have all those people. So they're looking for a partner to come in and say, we'll take on supporting these and administering these. And then, by the way, the administration on applications with those applications being delivered as a service, the term software as a service, is a critical part of that. The administration is less rigorous, but still needs to be there. And then more importantly, they need to extend those oftentimes, or build them, or add to them, change them. Services are being added on constantly. So what's happened is that IT has said, look, if we bring a number of partner organizations that extend our team without having to hire people and try to do that. And by the way, those folks are there 24/7, 365, and we can rely on them. That's a good thing. And it's a cost-effective thing. And as long as we have a way of engaging with them that allows them and us to be a part of it, we'll be successful. And it's occurred in other functions as well, if you think about it. Finance used to have their own payroll systems. They used to have people that do payroll. Now, oftentimes, you have applications and service providers that are basically taking over the payroll function for you, right? Calculating it or issuing checks, etc. It's no different than IT, and IT is doing the same thing and delivering that service to the business. Marketing is another function that has begun to become so technology-enabled that they've got their own stack of applications that are delivering services for them, and that ultimately, IT is either going to support, or they create their own marketing IT team, which is oftentimes called shadow IT, and is not necessarily always a good thing.